Magazine. Thanks for coming out today to the Home and Garden Show. This morning we have a great presentation coming up here. We have Rich and Leanna from the American Wine Society, and they're going to be speaking about making wine at home, which I think everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but it sounds like a great idea. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful presentation, so please feel free to take a seat. We're about to get started, and take it away, Rich.
Thank you, Leah. Okay, I've been speaking with some of you already about this. The American Wine Society has actually was organized in 1967. However, winemaking goes back forever. I don't know if you've, the concept here, this being a home show, we felt, well, what happens in the home in most cases is somebody's grandfather, somebody's father made wine at home. So why not talk about the possibility of making wine, because it's really not that difficult. Making wine is something, as we were talking before with some of the people here, is that wine tends to make itself. So it's not that difficult. You have some basic elements here, and just with those, you have enough to make wine, and with just enough information, the wine will come out really well. And let's face it, the cost of wine is actually starting to go up. We've had $2 chucks, we've had all kinds of other lower priced wines. Of course, some of us started out with Boone's Farm and the other kinds like that, right? You're shaking your head, yes, right, yes. That's okay, you can admit it, I admitted it. And we all start off, in most cases, with the lighter, the sweeter wines, and graduate. Right now we're at the point, my wife Leanna over here and I are pretty much red wine drinkers. We will drink some white wines, but they're more on the dry side, although there's nothing wrong with a sweet wine. The wine that is the best wine out there is the wine that you like. So it doesn't really matter. One of the main things with being in the American Wine Society is whatever wine you like is fine with us. Just learn more about it, learn how it's made, learn the aspects of it, so that you can learn to appreciate it more. And as the logo says, we're promoting the appreciation of wine through education. We want to make sure that people understand what it is that makes wine as good as it is, so that next time you go to the store, you're not intimidated. So what we wanted to talk about today was just following up on that fact that our grandfathers and fathers made wine, and personally in my case, that's what happened. My grandfather came over to our house one time, brought this barrel over, and I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And he got my dad, our backyard had 2 sets of grapes. And they're not exactly what wine people would call wine grapes. They were Niagara, they were Concord. You can make excellent wines with both of those, but they're going to be sweeter, lighter wines. But they made it, and they made it in this big barrel. And I always thought that was the coolest thing, because he did all kinds of neat things to it, and magical things it looked like. And as it turned out, the wine wasn't bad. Now, the old ways of doing things aren't necessarily the ways you want to do them now. In most cases, those wines were not as consistent. They perhaps had some flaws, and after a while turned into vinegar real quickly. So one of the things that we try to do is educate everybody in terms of what is the winemaking process today. What are some of the things that go on in winemaking process that are both simple, that you could do it, as well as consistent, so that whatever comes out of this bottle is going to be good. A couple of things. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot to make good wine. This glass jar is called a carboy. Usually when you're making wine, you're usually making a minimum of 5 gallons. This is a 3-gallon. And so you could make, like I said, 5 gallons worth of wine, pretty typically with either a kit, or you can do it with grapes or juice. For the first-time winemaker, I would suggest you use a kit, simply because the process is the same, but you have this piece of paper that you can read, and it takes you step by step by step. And the ingredients are already there. You don't have to go out and shop for them. So you kind of know exactly what needs to be done. Later on, you can graduate into doing juice. You can get juice from here at the Strip District. You can get grapes here in the Strip District. Have any of you ever been over to Consumer Produce up on the Strip District? Okay, or any of those along the strip down by the market area? That they have all this fruit and everything out there. A lot of people just go up there and buy their fruit directly from there. Our group, the American Wine Society, has several winemaking groups within it, and they'll end up over there at Consumers, and we end up actually having the advantage of 2 growing seasons, because our normal growing season, harvesting season, is going to be somewhere in September, October, somewhere in that neighborhood for just basically North America. However, Consumers Produce actually imports their grapes from Chile. So because the Southern Hemisphere is the exact opposite as far as seasons are concerned, in the springtime, which is coming up now, we'll be able to actually have grapes shipped in from Chile and make wine during the spring. The average time it takes to make wine depends upon the grape, depends upon how much effort you want to put into it and what you want out of it. Typically speaking about putting together a wine from grapes, we'll get the grapes in. You have to do a couple of different things with them. You have to crush them first of all, and there are little machines that will do that. Some places where you go and get your grapes, they have those, and they'll automatically crush them for you and take them home in that situation. And it's actually the sediment, or actually the skins, that give wine its color. Every wine can be a red wine. Every wine can be a white wine. Every grape, rather. You get a red wine because you let the wine sit, the crushed wine, you let it sit on the grape skins. And it's the grape skins that actually cause the color to be transferred over into the wine. So if you want a deeper, darker red wine, then it's a matter of just letting it sit on the skins longer. If you want a rosé, you pull it off the skins fairly quickly. You don't let it sit there very long. A lot of your white wines, of course, I get white grapes, then you're going to get more color from them. You won't necessarily get a red, but you'll get more of a golden tone the longer you let it sit on the skins. So these are all things that you need to think about how you want your wine to look at the beginning. But it's not that difficult. You kind of have in your mind what it is you're looking for, so you know what you need to do. Once you put the crushed juice or grapes into something like this carboy, usually takes about a week for the fermentation to occur because you've added yeast into it. You don't have to add yeast. Again, for consistency, you should add yeast. I'll tell you a little story. Leanne and I have been taking trips to Italy every other year and fell in love with the place. We actually go and visit Tuscany. And we visited, we rent this villa. It only holds like 16 people, and we invite our friends. We go and we say, anybody wants to come along with us, come on. The villa owner's father-in-law has a little farm up there, and in his garage, he might as well not have a car. He has all his winemaking equipment and everything in it. It's really something to see. But he has probably about as big as this stage and about as tall as maybe about 10 feet, 2 what are called cement fermenters. They're made entirely of cement, and they go back to maybe about World War II. And what they do is they crush the grapes and throw them in there, and they will naturally ferment.